At exactly 6:47 a.m. on a picture-perfect Tuesday morning, HOA President Bethany Kensington Wright committed a felony so outrageous it set off Homeland Security alerts in 3 states. Clang! That's the sound Maya caught on her phone, the bolt cutters snapping my federal-grade security chain. And with that single arrogant move, she declared war on the United States government. I was 8,000 miles away, halfway through my deployment with a federal drug task force. The sun was melting. The sand outside my barracks in Kandahar when I got the call. My sister's voice, cracking with fear, said 5 words I'll never forget. Tank, she's cutting your lock. That she was Bethany. 52 years old, white Lexus SUV, HOA president for 7 years and self-appointed Empress of Willowbrook Estates. Her weapon of choice wasn't a gun, it was a clipboard, a smile that could curdle milk, and an army of made-up bylaws. When I inherited my grandma's house, Rose Rodriguez, God rest her soul, I thought I was coming home to peace. She raised me after my parents died. That house was full of memories. But Bethany saw my federal Jeep in the driveway and decided it was lowering property values. That Jeep, by the way, not only mine, it was government property, laced with encrypted radios, GPS trackers, and $347,000 in surveillance tech meant for active cartel operations. Bethany didn't know she wasn't just targeting a soldier. She was meddling with federal, classified equipment and a law enforcement officer trained to dismantle entire criminal networks. But she thought I was just another military guy she could steamroll. She picked the wrong target, and she made the mistake of going after my family while I was away. That was her first mistake. Her second? Thinking the community would stay silent. This wasn't just HOA overreach. It was discrimination wrapped in official letters, weaponized bylaws, and intimidation tactics so deep-rooted you'd swear she was auditioning for a federal indictment. And let me tell you something, she got 1. You're going to want to stick around, because what started as a violation notice turned into an espionage investigation, a community uprising, and a courtroom finale that made local headlines. But first, let me take you back to where it all began. My grandmother's porch, my federal Jeep, and one HOA dictator who thought she could rewrite the law. Spoiler alert, she couldn't. 2 weeks into my deployment, Maya called crying. She had just pulled a letter out of Grandma's dusty old mailbox. Official HOA violation. Subject line, unauthorized commercial vehicle storage. The target? My government-issued, federally marked Jeep Wrangler parked in our private driveway. According to Bethany, my work truck was bringing down the neighborhood's aesthetic. Never mind the HOA bylaws my grandmother signed in 1987 that specifically exempted law enforcement and military vehicles. Never mind the giant federal property "Do not tow" decal on the side. And definitely never mind that my sister had already shown deployment paperwork, a tarp, and a temporary exemption request. Bethany didn't care. This wasn't about rules. This was about power. She looked Maya dead in the eye and said, if your brother can't follow basic standards, maybe this neighborhood isn't right for your family. Let that sink in. My sister, a sweet middle school teacher who bakes cookies for her students, was being told we didn't belong. She tried to reason, offered to move the Jeep into the garage, even begged. Bethany's reply? Rules are rules. But they weren't. Maya dug through the attic and found the HOA's original charter. My Jeep was protected. In fact, Bethany had illegally rewritten the HOA's rules, inserting vague clauses like no commercial or law enforcement signage in new drafts without community approval. Worse, Maya started connecting dots: Marine families, Navy spouses, veterans, all cited for bizarre violations: garden gnomes called unprofessional, motorcycles deemed too aggressive, baby strollers labeled hazardous obstructions. One Navy wife was fined for leaving patriotic bunting up past July 10th. All of them military families. This was systemic, and Bethany was using her husband Carl's spot on the city council to squash any pushback. I called in a favor. Military JAG. Sergeant Patricia Williams took one look at the situation and said, Rodriguez, this isn't just an HOA dispute. This is targeted harassment of active duty military families. That's when it hit me: Bethany wasn't enforcing rules. She was cleansing the neighborhood. Her mission: make Willowbrook exclusive by any means necessary. My Jeep was just the bait. But this wasn't my first war. I've taken down cartel cells and corrupt local governments. This woman, Thought she was the law. I was about to teach her what happens when you mess with federal jurisdiction, and I wasn't alone anymore. Bethany's next move came fast and dirty. A certified letter landed in Maya's mailbox demanding immediate vehicle removal within 24 hours. Not the standard 48, not even 36. 24. The letter cited emergency neighborhood degradation, whatever that meant. But this time, Bethany CC'd it to her husband's city council office and the local precinct. She was escalating fast, wrapping her lies in legal-looking letterhead to pressure Maya into towing federal property. Then the tow truck started circling. Discount Dave's, rusty flatbed, sketchy logo. Maya called me from Grandma's kitchen, voice shaking. Tank, the tow guy keeps looking at your Jeep like it's prey. I think they're gonna take it. The scent of vanilla candles couldn't mask the fear in her voice. That moment broke me. It wasn't just about me anymore. They were hunting my family. I got on satellite comms with Captain Sarah Chen, my task force supervisor. Explained everything. Her reaction? Stone-cold fury. You're telling me a suburban HOA president is targeting one of our agents' homes while you're deployed and trying to tow classified surveillance equipment? I'll never forget her words. That's not just civil harassment, Rodriguez. That's obstruction of federal operations. She escalated the issue to the Department of Defense liaison for civilian-military disputes. Within hours, the situation was flagged under the Service Members Civil Relief Act. But Bethany didn't stop. That same day, she showed up herself, measuring my Jeep's position with a damn tape measure. She was muttering legal codes under her breath like some knockoff judge. Then she said military service doesn't excuse noncompliance. Maybe your family isn't a fit for this community. You ever hear someone weaponize words like they're bullets? That was it. The veil was off. Her violations weren't about vehicles. They were about people. Maya, God bless her, started recording every word, every condescending sigh, every veiled threat. Then came the gold mine. Hidden in Grandma's HOA paperwork from 2019, a letter Bethany wrote to the city planning board opposing military housing assistance. Her reasoning: transient military families lack long-term investment in neighborhood cohesion. Translation: she didn't want us here. She never had. She was running a private campaign to push out military families using fake rules and fear. I knew then, this wasn't just HOA abuse. This was discrimination. And I had the law, federal resources, and a team trained to dismantle cartels on my side. I activated the Jeep's covert surveillance system remotely from 8,000 miles away. Most people think a Jeep's just a Jeep, but when you're federal task force, that thing is basically a rolling FBI van. Infrared cameras, automatic license, plate logging, motion sensors, encrypted GPS standard issue, and it had been running the whole time. What I saw made my blood freeze. Bethany hadn't just trespassed. She had walked onto our property 17 times in 3 days. She measured, photographed, even used a flashlight at night to peer inside the vehicle. At exactly 1:43 a.m., she tried the door handles. She was actively trying to access classified equipment. That crossed a line into potential espionage. But what chilled me wasn't just her. She wasn't alone. The footage clearly showed her pointing out components of the Jeep's comms panel to 2 uniformed security guards. I zoomed in on their badges: Exec Safe Security, a private firm known for borderline legal compliance enforcement. They were documenting federal surveillance tech like it was a streetlight violation. That's when I realized they were building a file on me. Maya confirmed it an hour later. The guards had started telling neighbors I was under investigation and a potential risk. My sister, this brave, quiet schoolteacher, was suddenly getting side eyes in the grocery store. One mom refused to let her kid play with Maya's students. "We don't know what kind of people they have in that house," she'd whispered. Then Maya's principal called her in. The exact words: "Community concerns have been raised about your family's stability. They were trying to ruin her career, all because I parked a federal vehicle on my own property." I contacted Captain Chen again. She was furious but strategic. "If we move now, we give them what they want, a reason to call you dangerous. We need them to hang themselves." So we waited and watched. That night, the Jeep's surveillance system caught Bethany handing one of the guards a manila folder. They opened it, nodded, and took more photos of the dashboard. I sent the footage to Federal Internal Affairs. The file contained schematics of task force radio frequencies, That wasn't just harassment anymore. That was felony surveillance of federal law enforcement operations. That moment triggered a formal investigation under Title 18 U.S. Code 798, Disclosure of Classified Information. Bethany had just gone from HOA president to national security threat, and she had no idea. The federal response was swift but silent. No sirens, no agents in windbreakers storming the cul-de-sac. That's not how real intelligence work happens. It's quieter, more surgical. The morning after I submitted the footage, I got a call from a restricted number. A calm voice on the other end said, "Agent Monroe, your asset is confirmed. Begin Operation Neighborhood Freeze." That was the green light. Within 24 hours, half a dozen HOA board members received official subpoenas not for harassment, but for cooperation in an active federal surveillance breach. The IRS suddenly reopened an audit on Bethany's home renovation permits. Code enforcement flagged her guest house for unauthorized electrical extensions. Even the city zoning board started sniffing around her garden wall, which Maya always said looked too tall. One by one, the power pillars of Bethany's little empire started cracking. And still, I hadn't said a word publicly, but the whispers had started. HOA members began quitting. Bethany called an emergency meeting to clear the air. Only 2 people showed up. Then came the moment of implosion. Maya walked into school Monday morning to find a sealed envelope on her desk. Inside, a formal apology signed by the school board plus a personal note from the principal. "Your family is under unfair scrutiny. We support you." Bethany had tried to weaponize community perception. Instead, she became the villain. At a neighborhood block party she tried to organize, no one showed. The balloon arch was still up when code enforcement taped a stop work order to her garage. She looked like a dethroned queen at a child's failed birthday party. The final blow? A certified letter, delivered straight to her door. Pursuant to U.S. Code Title 50, you are hereby notified that all interactions regarding Federal Task Force property have been documented and submitted to the Office of Special Counsel. Translation: you are officially on the record in a federal case. That same night, the Jeep, gone, extracted by a clean team in an unmarked trailer at AM, and just like that, the story ended not with a bang, but with a quiet knock on a very guilty door. Bethany didn't go down quietly. 2 days after the federal letter, she lawyered up. Not with a regular HOA attorney, but with a high-priced firm known for reputation management and corporate damage control. That told me one thing. She wasn't just scared of court, she was scared of exposure. Her team started filing complaints against me, Maya, even the school. She claimed we had staged the surveillance footage, that the Jeep was a prop, that I wasn't even part of a federal task force. Bold lies and easy to disprove. My agency issued a sealed affidavit verifying my active duty status, time-stamped before the Jeep ever hit the driveway. But then Bethany made her worst move yet. She filed a civil suit. Public records, discovery rights. That meant everything: emails, texts, financials became subject to subpoena. Her private life cracked open like a dropped phone. And what poured out was worse than anyone imagined. Turns out, Bethany wasn't just HOA president. She was secretly getting kickbacks from a private development group that wanted to rezone our block. That's why she'd been harassing homeowners so they'd sell. The Jeep, with its classified tech, was just the excuse she needed to claim hazard and force a property dispute. And those to private security guards, registered subcontractors for a firm that also donated to her husband's political campaign. Federal agents traced money trails, shell companies, fraudulent maintenance invoices. The HOA's own landscaping budget was a laundromat for developer funds. What began as a revenge story over a Jeep became a RICO case. The headlines hit within a week: HOA president under federal investigation for racketeering, witness harassment, and obstruction. Maya cried when she saw it, not from fear, from relief. For the first time in months, she walked into the grocery store and people smiled. A neighbor even hugged her. Bethany had tried to crush my sister's life with whispers, but in the end, it was her secrets that buried her. It wasn't just about revenge anymore. After Bethany's RICO indictment, the neighborhood went into freefall. The HOA dissolved within weeks, board members resigned, lawyers ghosted, and the bylaws were tossed into legal limbo. But I wasn't done. See, while all eyes were on Bethany's criminal charges, I quietly filed a civil countersuit not just for damages, but to reclaim the parcel of land they tried to use against us. The one where the Jeep had been parked. It had been miszoned years ago due to a filing error. My filing error, actually, back when I worked a temporary city admin role during college. Funny how fate loops back. With that zoning loophole and under whistleblower protections, I argued that the HOA had no jurisdiction over that driveway or the surveillance footprint. The court agreed. Not only was the HOA's case dismissed with prejudice, I was granted ownership rights to the 20-foot easement surrounding the property, including Bethany's prized rose garden wall that technically crossed the line. I didn't demolish it. I leased it to a nonprofit focused on community peacekeeping. That stretch of land now holds a community camera hub funded by the same federal program Bethany tried to report me under. Irony? No justice. As for Maya, she got a scholarship from a cybersecurity firm impressed by how she handled months of pressure. The same firm hired me as a liaison. Together, we now train teens in digital rights and property protections. What Bethany meant for humiliation turned into purpose. And here's the twist no one saw coming. The day Bethany was sentenced, a man in a gray suit left a note in my mailbox. No name, just a message. Clean work, agent. You're ready for phase 2. What do you think phase 2 means? Comment your guess below. Like if you love justice. Subscribe if you're ready for more stories that prove sometimes the quiet ones win.